Thank you very much for your time here on ENCA. Now, a lot of people would say that this was blatant disrespect by the minister as well as his DG to come onto the committee meeting or briefing and choose that they will not answer questions about this contract. Do you agree?
Good morning and good morning to fellow South Africans. Certainly, I think it is a complete disregard for accountability. The use of sub judice as a rule is an old American legislation. Parliament is the apex of accountability. Ministers ought to have come there to be able to account fully to the people of South Africa. That's why we have a parliament that is for the people. And ultimately, as things stand at the moment, Minister Mkhize should actually step aside, in fact, be able to give an investigation to proceed if he's going to maintain silence on the issue. If he keeps on the job, then he must come and explain himself. The ANC itself cannot rely on this particular old rule that is outdated to simply say they are going to close the ranks. It is a disregard to the people of South Africa. South Africans have no vaccines. They have ultimately no health assistance in a time of a pandemic, and yet the ANC wants to protect the minister. I have no issue against Minister Mkhize. All I'm simply saying is that for the people of South Africa, we must demonstrate accountability at a political level rather than simply being shielded by party politics and ultimately hiding away from Parliament.
Now, there's also that issue about the fact that the minister lets the chairperson know on the 11th hour that he cannot come to the briefing. A lot of people would also say that that was also disrespectful, not to come to the briefing and tell the nation yourself that you have been told not to appear.
We have a twofold process here. We have a twofold process. One, ministers, he will get away with this. Frankly, there will be no consequence because two people who are supposed to be involved, firstly, the leader of government business needs to sanction the minister. You cannot not show up at a portfolio committee meeting. It doesn't work like that. You are accountable to the people of South Africa. Secondly, the president needs to demonstrate leadership here. Otherwise, he legitimizes all the other factions who are saying the selection as to who's corrupt, the good people versus the bad people, becomes the issue. He legitimizes that by not acting against Minister Mkhize. So therefore, in this instance, this is well within the power of the president to simply take action, to simply say, in the interest of transparency and not interfering with an investigation. That is why you suspend people. In law, you suspend someone so that an investigation can flow without interference. I would therefore still urge, without pronouncing guilt on Minister Mkhize, he should step aside so that it can proceed. We can have an acting Minister of Health. I know many South Africans are anxious at a time like this. But all I'm simply saying is this, that there's institutional capacity. We've had other people act in a capacity before, and we can be able to give appropriate leadership without having a Minister of Health distracted by other matters of corruption. Ultimately, when it's said and done, this is where the people get shortchanged by politics. It's when political power and pressures take precedence over the citizens. We, the people, are simply asking for a leader who is above reproach, who is able to say to us at this time, I'm focused solely on doing my job and will account to you. And Minister Mkhize has failed on both those scores.
And also, you know, talking about the step-aside resolution taken by the ANC, I'm not sure if you listened to that briefing that took place today, but at some point, one of the members raised the issue of step-aside and exactly what you're saying about the president using his position to deal with this matter. And one of the ANC members said that nobody should be involved in ANC matters about step-aside. But would you agree with people who are saying the step-aside issue does not only affect the ANC, it affects the country?
This is not an ANC matter. Digital Vibes did not take ANC money. They did not get a contract from the ANC. They got a contract from the Department of Health, which administers the resources of the people of South Africa. If we view it that way, frankly, the ANC's got nothing to do with this matter. The only person who must act is the president and the deputy. If firstly, on the sanction of why he didn't appear before Parliament, that's the leader of government business. And secondly, as to where he accounts and who appointed Minister Mkhize to be the president. It wasn't to be the Minister of Health. It wasn't the ANC. It was the President of the Republic of South Africa, because the Constitution gives the president power to appoint ministers. Therefore, in this instance, it's got nothing to do with the ANC. The president must stand up front and say to the people, rather than saying these matters are serious and he has to wait for the SIU. That sounds like process. It's very typical of this presidency, where it's like, we wait for this investigation, that process, this process. Whereas this is a time to demonstrate to people the seriousness and the gravity of the matter. You are not pronouncing guilt by asking someone to say, step down as Minister of Health because I appointed you and I actually want action to be taken so that no one is interfering in this matter. There's nothing to pronounce guilt on that matter. If Mr. Mkhize comes back and there's nothing that is wrong that he's done, fine, he can retain his position. But in this instance, the people of South Africa are being cheated. They are in fact being robbed by a leadership that is concerned with party politics rather than in fact acting in the interest of the people of South Africa. So to me, I'm saying we, the people, are simply demanding action. We cannot be dependent on party politics. It is why the party political system fails the people when matters such as this one arise.
And I think a lot of South Africans are growing very tired of, government officials not realizing that they are public servants. It's as if it's as if the country has to be the one that accounts to them, when things are actually the other way around.
It's where there's a flaw in the Public Finance Management Act, because it points the accounting officer to be the director, to be the DG of the office. Whereas I think in this instance, that's why I keep calling for electoral reform, is to say politicians must account to the people. We vote for them. We must directly vote for them. Imagine if Minister Mkhize was voted by a constituency of people. Those people have the right to then say, Minister Mkhize, we think that you should actually step aside, and they should act because he should account to the people. And secondly, that we must be able to make sure that in law keeping, we can't have politicians who are willing to point. We saw it when the Gupta landing took place. The presidency was able to point to a director general. Every corruption scandal, there's a bureaucrat who eventually takes the fall, and if given enough time, get promoted to ambassadorial position, whilst politicians walk around with corruption in their departments and no one accounts because we've got a presidency that is bound by party politics. In this instance, we need to be able to say, imagine if the president could say he respects us enough as the people of South Africa for him to act against one of his ministers. It would be a different presidency. That's why direct elections are necessary today, so that we can end up simply saying, the president, we are now asking you to act. We're not asking for you to wait. The process can unfold. And if he's innocent, he will be proven innocent. But in this instance, we are demanding a vaccine rollout plan. We are demanding a minister who's focused on the job, not dealing with digital vibes. And what we are asking you to do is to ask him to step down so that we can get a leadership that can do it. Minister Mkhize is not the sole person who can do the job. We can find people who can do this job. So let's not be held bound by saying he's one of the good people. One of the good people on what basis? The fact is, something has gone wrong in a department. He must step down. And we're not playing politics here. We are looking at the health of the people of South Africa.
One SA movement leader, Mmusi Maimane, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA.